Stumps and Stories podcast with Nishad Pai Vaidya.
Had a slice of history on the cricket field, but at the same time, they've also made a mark of it. And today I'm joined by someone whose journey has been really interesting. And I've been amazed by his trajectory, not just on field, but even off the field. I had the pleasure of interviewing him a few years ago when he took a really different path away from the cricket field. But all these years later, it's been really great to speak to him again because he's found success here as well. The man I'm talking about is Omari Banks, an all-rounder who broke into the West Indies side in the early 2000s as a young all-rounder. And of course, he had a great mark because 47 not out is a number that's going to stick with him because that was the contribution he made when West Indies made history and chased down a total of 418 in the fourth innings at Antigua against one of the greatest teams that the world has ever seen. And later, at the young age of 29, he decided, hang on, I think my destiny will take me somewhere else. And he picked up the guitar instead of a cricket bat and embarked on a music career. I've heard a few singles, and No Point to Prove is one that I really like because it's got a bit of a cricketing tinge as well. But before anything else, let me welcome Omari Banks to our show. Omari joining us all the way from Anguilla, and it's really early morning there. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm really excited to speak to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, my brother. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, to talk sports, and it's a pleasure that you've been following the journey. We spoke about a few of my singles, No Point to Prove, and as well even to Move On, which is another single which was inspired by my transition in my time in cricket. We all know that cricket is a game, as they say, of glorious uncertainties, but it's also a game that has brought me so many great memories. I've had so much great times playing the game of cricket, as well as a lot of lessons that I've learned from playing the game of cricket on the field, off the field, even working to be on the field, working to play cricket. I mean, there's so many lessons that you can get over the years: the hard work, the discipline, the focus, and just the ups and downs which are part of the game as well as part of life, which can help you in your next life. And as you mentioned before, I've moved on from my time in cricket, and now I'm doing music, and I'm having a great time doing that for sure.
Tell us about the very beginning because I know your father, Clement Banks, or Banky Banks, as he's popularly known, made his mark
Yes.
in reggae music as well. But at the same time, you were also influenced by your uncle Val, who was a first class cricketer himself. How did that cricket versus music thing take off early in childhood? Was it both, or was it just one of the things that you picked up?
So yeah, I mean, actually, my uncle Val wasn't a first class cricketer, but he was very close to like being part of the trials to play first class cricket, and he was a captain of Anguilla. So he had a very strong history in cricket. But for me, in terms of music, I grew up around cricket, around music my whole life. My dad being an artist and being one of the forerunners of reggae music in the Eastern Caribbean, especially Eastern Caribbean, meaning not the likes of Jamaica, but in the more eastern side of the Caribbean. My father was one of the people who were one of the first people to really break out as a reggae artist. And then even his style of reggae music is a little bit different, but he was one of those persons who really came to the forefront of reggae music in this part of the Caribbean. So kind of grew up around that tradition, and um, not even just to say reggae music, but just music in general. My father being a lover of people, um, Bob Dylan, of course, Bob Marley, Stevie Wonder. Um, yeah, I mean, you name it, but just the music of the day. He's a soul that was grew up in the 60s, 70s. And during that time, you have a lot of singers, songwriters. And I was born in the 80s. So I come from a background where music was always around and everything that I did. And then I think from the age of maybe 4 or 5 years old, when my mother discovered that talent, of course, my dad spent a lot of time on the road, performing and traveling and touring and trying to get his career even outside of the region to new heights. I spent a lot of time with my mother, who would encourage me as well to do music. So I took part in a lot of talent shows from a very early age. So from the age of maybe 5, 6 years old, I would go on shows and sing and win, and do really well. So I was really encouraged to do music from a very early age. But at the age of like maybe 7, 8 years old, I fell in love with cricket, and that became my obsession. And I just wanted to became the dream, like every other Caribbean kid at that time, West Indian kid, you want to play for the West Indies team. So I always had a passion for music. Grew up around music. I had instruments that I had was always around. Other people in the family played music as well. But really, what I developed a love for cricket, and from that age of 8 years old, I really put a lot of effort into just following that passion, I would say obsession at the time.
I just wanted to ask you about a couple of things with regards to your father, because I believe he started a music festival which continued for a really, really long time. And it was one of the first music festivals in that area. Also, you performed at a really young age on one of his tours as well. So, what
Yeah.
were those memories like early in your life?
Well, as I said before, my dad is actually the owner slash co-producer with a friend of his called Bob from New York City of the longest privately owned music festival in the Caribbean that's called Moonsplash. So I kind of grew up around that kind of vibe, you know what I mean? Seeing a lot of musicians come to my dad's festival. And it was always a family affair. So I was blessed enough to see so many different artists, all of the top artists of the region, definitely region, come and perform at that festival, as well as international artists, the likes of Jimmy Buffett, John Mayer has been there. Um, Sean Paul did a festival at my
Oh,
dad's
wow.
a show at my dad's place as well. Bunny Wailer, Chronics. I mean, Buju Banton. Over the years, like everybody, who's who, Richie Stevens. So everybody has at some point in time been at that. So I grew up around that, and that's always a great thing as a young, aspiring, what should I say, love of music. I mean, to see people who use it on television or here on the radio station, that's gonna inspire you. And even if I was playing cricket at the time, I was always in tune with what's going on musically that was around me. And I kind of gravitated to that. I gravitated to the guitar. And from the age of maybe before I could even play the guitar, I had guitars. Maybe at the age of 9, 10, 11, my aunt Linda showed me some chords on the guitar, and then my dad showed me some bar chords. The musicians who would come to my dad's festival, I asked them to show me different things on the guitar, the bass, and then it just grew from that. Just my love for that. So actually, the crazy part about it is when I started to even pursue cricket even more forcefully. I mean, in the Caribbean, there was not necessarily a structure of of like education in cricket. So my first job when I finished school, because I wanted to facilitate my cricketing career when I was like 16, 17, I started to entertain. I played music at
Oh, wow.
different hotels by myself. I would sing, play the guitar maybe for a couple of hours during the night, but then all day I would practice. So I practiced during the day. I would sing 2 nights, 2 hours in the night, maybe 4 times a week. And then I was able that way to at least make a little bit of money. You know what I mean? Play, you know what I mean? Take care of my needs, give my mom a bit of money, as well as I'll be able to practice all day. So I think that my music was never too far away from what I did. It also actually helped me facilitate my dream of being an international cricketer at the time. And yeah, I was just blessed to be, as I said before, around um, the music festival Moon Splash. Yeah, I can even still remember. Yeah, the first time I went over to at 5 years old on my fifth birthday, I went over to Italy. My dad was in Italy, and he'll tell you the story well that how I went onto the stage because I knew all of his songs. I would fall asleep in the band house sometimes when he was back home rehearsing, and I would go and I would sing along to the song. So I guess being a very confident young person at a young boy, during one of his shows, I just went up to the stage and he gave me a mic and I started to sing. So I think that's kind of the way how I believe um, my real introduction into music came. I heard music, I love music, and I wasn't afraid to express myself. And I think that's what music is about. That's ultimately what I try to do with my music: express myself, tell my story, tell about the things that I believe can inspire other people, and by turn inspire other people in the world. I think that's what music is about: how we can touch lives in a positive way, inspire people to live wholesomely, and just to bring out what we have inside. And I think that's the brand of music that I've been always exposed to, and that's what I try to push out there when I create music myself.
We'll come to your music in a little bit, but we'll just go onto the cricket field. And I wanted to ask you this because you're the first Anguillan cricketer to play for the West Indies. And that in itself is an achievement. How difficult was it? Because, of course, Leeward Islands had produced many great cricketers, but from Anguilla, first to make it into the Leeward Islands team, and then from there to make it into the West Indies team. Tell us about that journey and how difficult it was.
Well, that journey was very, I should say, it's not an easy journey, because you can imagine playing for the West Indies team from Anguilla with a population of maybe at that time maybe 12,000, even 13,000 people was extremely hard. But I'll put it this way: within the Caribbean, we are unique in the sense that it's a number of different countries. So for me to play for Angola, of course, you have to make your village team. And then if you're good enough, you make the national trials at the time. Then if you're good enough, you play for Angola. Then if you're good enough, you play in a sub-regional competition. This is how it would work in it before. So you play against Antigua, St. Kitts, Nevis, the British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, U.S. Virgin Islands, and then the best from that team would then be able to play for the Leeward Islands. And then if you play for the Leeward Islands, then you come up against the other bigger countries, the Trinidad, the Barbados, Jamaica, and all the likes, the Windward Islands. So basically, there's a long line of different trials, a long line, and you can imagine with that, there's a lot of politics. All the islands want their players to be selected on a team, and even from a administration point of view, there's always a tussle which administrators get to decide the structure of even just the selection. So you can imagine there were a lot of challenges, but I was blessed enough that because of my passion for the game, as well as I've been blessed enough to be exposed to a lot of people, I would say that were privy to the professional game and who had played professional cricket before. Well, not a lot, at least some couple of people. My coach, who was a young the national under 15s, under 19s, and then senior team coach Cardigan Connor, who had played professional cricket in England. He came back to kind of run the youth development program here in Anguilla. So we had somebody in him that had already played professional cricket in England coming back and coaching us. And what he did, he also tried to encourage other teams from England. So Leicestershire, Yorkshire one time, they came to Anguilla and they did pre-season training. And I remember when I was about 14, 15 years old, then Leicestershire invited me over to do training with them. And so I would go over every summer from the age of 14 years old and train in Leicestershire. And Coach Jack Birkinshaw, I would say, who's like a father figure and a mentor to me, because he believed in me from a very young age and always encouraged me to work hard and put me in an environment. He actually got me to play at the age of 16, 17 years old, Leicestershire against Pakistan. So that was actually my first professional match. 16, 17 years old against the likes of Mushtaq Ahmed, Yusuf Yahana, who I actually got out, Waka Yunus. And so that was my kind of upbringing. I mean, so because I was able to be exposed to that level of cricket from a very early age, I kind of stood out in the region in the sense that in Angola I was one of course top young player at the time. And then I went on to play, of course, for the Leeward Islands under 15s, and then Leeward Islands under 19s, and then West Indies under 19s. So I came to the age rank cricket, but it was a lot of work and a lot of politics, even sometimes within your own island. Because but the fact of the matter is, once you work hard and once you have success in competitions, that's why I always have that mentality, even in my music. Once you understand that you're the one who's responsible ultimately for your success, you put in the work. So from a very early age, I always told myself I had to the markers, whether it is the make leeward on the 15s or West Indies on the 19s, just work hard and score runs, score century, take 5 wickets, and have a good attitude. So I mean, it was difficult. The politics were there, but I think in sports, I think you have a time span. You've got to always set the targets, and you got to try to hit them when you're young, because when you're 15, even if if there's a 13-year-old that looks a bit more promising and doing just a little, and you're doing just a little bit better, they might go to 13-year-old. So what's important, you've got to make sure that you try to do the best you can at an early age, and so you can get into the different age groups so they see you as a prospect for the future. And I kind of understood that very early in my career, and that's what I try to pass on even to the young cricketers here in Angola and even the region when I speak to them. You may think you're young, but there's always somebody younger. And I understood that, and I worked very hard. I mean, I spent hours in the park. I would dream that I played for West Indies. Nobody had done that at the time. Even when I was going to school, I sacrificed a lot. I mean, people would tell me sometimes that I'm crazy. How much time? Sometimes you skipping school to be in the park training cricket. Sacrifice your education. Well, in terms of course, uh, a degree in what it is something else after high school, because I mean there's in the Caribbean there's not necessarily recently there like the University of the West Indies that you can go there and then hope to develop that, but when I grew up there was none of that. You just had you play cricket. If you want to pursue cricket, you just gotta try to make your Leeward Islands team early, and then with that you do well for that and play for West Indies. Not like the structure in England where it kind of goes through education and you can kind of go that road. So I sacrificed a lot. It wasn't difficult, but I was blessed enough to have a couple people around me that really supported me. A couple people in my family who encouraged me. Some people who didn't either. But I was very hard headed. I think that's you've got to be hard headed in sports. You have to know what you want, and let's go. I'll definitely say my uncle Val was definitely somebody who really encouraged me. He made sure that I had cricketing equipment if I needed that, and I really pursued the game with all my heart. Sometimes training on the park by myself. I would sometimes train with the athletics people on the park just to get my fitness levels up. And I try to just do the best that I could do. Read a lot. I read a lot of motivational books. My mother used to have motivational books in the house. So I did all that I could do to develop my mind. I would watch videos of Blind Lara, the 375 and Antigua. And it's so funny that I always tell people it's so funny that I played a part in the highest run chase of 418. Because as a child, this is the kind of thing that I always told myself. I used to tell myself as a kid that I wanted to be a batsman for West Indies. I told myself that I would break the record of 375 that Lara broke in Antigua. And I remember my uncle Val took me to the game at 12 years old. And this was after Lara broke the record. This was 1995 West Indies versus Australia. And but I think the game got rained out. I saw Lara batting up, but I went onto the field after the match. But I used to watch that match with the match with the year before against England when Lara scored the 375. I watched it over and over and over as a child. And I told myself that I want to break that record one day. I mean, I didn't go on to break the record, but I went on to be a part of the highest run chase, which is still a record in the history of cricket. And I would say even that is an achievement which in itself, just to be part of that. And then even the same year, 2003, I actually was nominated myself with Graham Smith and James Anderson by Whizzing Magazine of one of the three young nominees for one of the World Young Player of the Year award. So I didn't win it. I think Graham Smith won the award, but I was one of the three nominees in that year. So I'm really proud of that. And but yeah, growing up in the region, especially coming from Angola, it was a lot. It was hard. And it's nothing that is worth having is easy. So I always told myself, and I had the confidence to do so, to work hard, hit your targets. And I was blessed to have people around me, some people that inspired me, some people that would made it hard as well, but all of that is part of the process of being able to accomplish your goals. Because when you reach at the top, it's a fight as well. So I was blessed enough to work hard and actually achieve playing for the West Indies.
And that happened at Barbados when you won a test cap and you're up against the likes of Justin Langer, Matthew Hayden, Ricky Ponting, and of course the great Steve Waugh, Adam Gilchrist. You picked up 3 wickets, but of course you conceded a lot of runs. As a youngster,
Yeah.
how
Yes.
difficult was it adjusting to a great batting lineup like that? And what was the challenge for you on that day?
It was, I mean, the challenge was on that day on my debut, of course, just playing against great international batsmen. But I mean, I think I played against Australia a couple of weeks before that in Guyana because I did well in the regional competition, and I played against Australia. I think in the 2 innings, I think I took up about 5 or 6 wickets in the match. I had gotten Steve out Cotton Bowl, I got Matthew Hayden out, I think caught behind. So I picked up a couple wickets on a turning pitch in Guyana, and then they brought me in for the third test. And so I had a bit of confidence, but I mean, playing a first class match in our sub region against Australia is still different than playing a test match because the intensity of it, and of course the spotlight is on you when you bowl. So initially, when I went out to bowl, of course I was nervous. And you just want to find your stride and bowl a few balls in a good area. But I think the Australians, they're not gonna let you settle. So it took a little bit for me to get settled, and especially a player like Ricky Ponting, who's always looking to come at you. I don't think he was the greatest player of our spin, but he's one of the greatest batsmen of all time. And when he played against the spin, against just bowling in general, his thing was always to attack you. And I think when you're young and you have a batsman that's going to attack you, you've got to show that batsman that you can contain him. And I think I did that sometimes, but in some ways, I think the Australians got a bit of the ball, got the better of the ball at sometimes. But I think they were aided as well at times by, I think, half my bowling in that innings. I think I had 6 drop catches.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that, but you can, if you check it out, that there was 6 drop catches off my bowling. Some a little bit difficult chances, but some of them were chances. I mean, at the end of the day, as a spinner, you can get hit around the park a few times. I had already got 3 wickets, but if you get 3 for 120, it's a lot. 6 for 120, that's a good bowling spell. I think I got 3 for 200 odd, 202 or 203 or something like that. But it was a great experience because for me, it was an opportunity for me to bowl and challenge yourselves against the best. Australia was the best team at the time. And what better way to come up against to give you initiation? It was tough. I mean, you would prefer an easy opponent on your first go around. And at the time, West Indies were 2-0 already down in the series. So you can imagine the Australian tails are up, they're confident, their batsmen are already scoring runs. And here's a young debutant bowling off spin in his first test match playing against Australia. So it was a good experience to me. I was just proud to be able to represent my region. It was a dream come true. And just to be playing against the likes of Ricky Ponting, Steve Waugh, Adam Gilchrist, Darren Learon played at the time, people who I grew up admiring, to be able to bowl to them in a test match, and even the likes of Brian Lara, and all these people who I idolized as a kid growing up, to be playing, sharing the dressing room with them was something that was special. So it was a great experience. No matter how you get your test cap, or no matter what happens, it's a memory that you hold on to for the rest of your life. I mean, I remember driving into the park in Barbados and just seeing the energy. I mean, I know sometimes in the Caribbean for a test match, sometimes on day one, right now you may not have as much people, but at that time, when you drive into a test match, whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, any day of the week, when you roll into a test match, there's going to be a lot of screaming and people who just can't wait for the game to start. And the atmosphere was electric, and I was excited to play, nervous, but really just looking forward to play my first international match because I was thrilled to be able to be selected. Because I remember when I got the call, I had gotten a call early in the morning that from, I think it was my coach of the day, that team, and he said that somebody wants my number. They want to give me a call. I never forgot when I got the call from Brian Lowry. He said, "Good morning, Banksy. Just want to let you know that you've been selected for the West Indies team." And that moment stands out in my memory. I remember looking towards the city area, the valley, which is the town in Anguilla. And I remember thinking when this news broke in Anguilla, it would be so special. And it was special when it happened. Of the whole island, it was like it went on a standstill, and everybody was calling to the radio stations and just celebrating. Because before that, we really they couldn't imagine that someone from Anguilla could be selected for the West Indies team. So those are proud moments, and I look back at those times with fond memories. I mean, I learned so much in my time playing, and I really just had a great time playing and representing the region. Coming from Anguilla, yeah, it was a blessing. It was a lot of work, but definitely worthwhile.
And now we go to Antigua. In 1995, as a 12-year-old, you were there. But now 8 years down the line, that 12-year-old has now, of course, grown up. He's able enough to represent the West Indies. And he may have thought that he'll break Brian Lara's record, but no, he's here trying to break another record. But what's happened is that it's a bit of acrimony out there in the middle. Sarwan and McGrath have a go at each other. He scores a great 100, Ramnaresh Sarwan, and he gets out, pulling to Brett Lee. And then Ridley Jacobs, I remember the next ball, I think he got hit on the arm guard or the elbow, and he was caught behind. Given out. And you walk in, the Antiguan crowd is going mad. Tell us about
Absolutely. That was a crazy moment, man. I mean, Sarwan, big up to Sarwan. Sarwan is a good friend of mine. I still stay in touch with him every now and again. So enough love, enough respect, my brother Sarwan. But yeah, I mean, Antigua crowd is always, they're a very avid cricketing crowd. I mean, you have the likes of Kurt Ambrose, Vivian Richards, Andy Roberts, Winston, Kenneth Benjamin, just Richard Judson, just to name a few. So they've got a long line of great cricketers that come from that. So you can imagine the Antiguan people always in tune with the game of cricket. And I remember that like yesterday, because I remember Antigua would be like my home base in the Leewards, because although I'm from Antigua, Antigua is like the head of the Leeward Islands. So that would be where Leewards the home match for me, because I'm from the Leeward Islands. So this was the last test of the series, and a lot of my friends and my family had come up to watch the match in Antigua. So when I was playing the match, and this was the first time ever West Indies could be whitewashed, as they say, lose all the matches in the Caribbean. So it was a big deal. A lot of people came up for the match, and I was it was a tense moment, you know what I mean? But I remember, when I went out when I was strapping on my pads and watching the match, watching Ramnaresh Sarwan and Shifter Rensham the ball bat. And then the second new ball was taken, and Shiv and Sarwan were batting so well. And then Sarwan went on to pull, I think, Bertie, and cut him a couple times. And then he played one shot too many, and I think he played a pull shot. And then I think he got caught on the pitch. So of course he was disappointed, and so I was getting ready to strapping on my pads, taking my time. And then as soon as he got out, because by this time now Brett Lee is one of the fastest, if the fastest bowler in the world, bowling over 90 miles per hour. So before that, I didn't have on my arm guard. So as soon as Sarwan got out, I literally got up from watching the game, and I went inside of the dressing room, put on my arm guard, and before I could sit back down, really Jacobs is out. So I remember saying to myself, I said, well, Omari, this is it. I remember thinking, I wasn't even nervous. I wasn't even nervous. The moment was so huge. I just told myself I'll go out there and I'll do the best that I could. Literally, this was it. Brett Lee, the fastest bowler in the world. Australia, the #1 best team in the world. He's got a new ball in his hand. The tails are up. They try to beat us 4-0. And trust me, the crowd is going on, and the Australians, they don't back down from a challenge. So everything in the moment was intense. And I just remember strolling to the middle, confident. I mean, if you grew up in Anguilla, the pitch in Anguilla is a bouncy pitch as well, even faster than the pitch in Antigua. But that pitch in Antigua had a bit of bounce and pace to it. But the only thing was, the ball didn't have so much of movement. Of course, it's a new ball, so it's going to move a bit. But Brett Lee was bowling at extreme pace, but the ball wasn't moving as much. So I told myself, well, you see the ball and you just get behind the ball and play the best that you could. You can bat. Everybody knew that I could bat. I mean, I was known for my batting, especially from age group cricket. I was known as a batting all around actually even before my bowling. So I know I could bat, and I know it wouldn't back down from a challenge. But this, of course, was a new challenge, new ball, fast pitch, and some of the best bowlers in the world. So that's my mindset was just to go out there, do the best that I could, watch the ball, don't back down, compete. And I know I could compete with them because I had a couple of good batting scores. In the first thing, I was 12 not out. In the match against in Barbados, my debut match, I played well against Betty, drove him down the ground a couple of times, and batted for quite a bit. So I had batted for quite a bit in that in the previous match. I was confident, but of course, facing Brett Lee with a new ball in McGrath and Gillespie, these guys, it's never going to be easy. So yeah, my mentality was just to go out there, support Shanda Paul. I always tell the story. It's a funny story. I remember like growing up and playing cricket. If you're batting with a more senior partner, generally what happens is they'll say, "Okay, cool. I'll try to take most of the strike, and then you know what I mean, and then you maybe try to hit out the balls that you can. So if I'm batting with Shiv, he would maybe try to dominate four balls, and you take two, and then he'll do that. But I remember from immediately as I reached the crease, the first thing Shiv told me was, Banksy, ball is hot out here. We're gonna have to rotate it. So basically it was, you're gonna have to do it. We're gonna do this together. He had the confidence in me to say, Banksy, you can bat. This is the time you gotta show your batting skills. We're gonna rotate the strike. It's not gonna be easy for both of us. And we did that. We batted for quite a while on that afternoon. It was just after tea, and we batted, I think, from shortly after tea until until the next morning. I can never forget after we batted so well, myself and Shiv, going in after the day's play, we had a meeting around the pool. Lara was the captain, and I never forgot he had a meeting. He was saying, whatever happens with the match, he feels that we've done such a great job in pulling us back into this match that he was proud of us. And that we should go out there tomorrow and we can win this match. We've just got to go out there and believe in ourselves. And for me, as a young player, growing up idolizing Brian Lara, I would think I was 29 or 30 not out overnight, maybe 28, 29, something around there. And I never, I felt such a sense of confidence and ease and I felt like we were going to do. I felt that we had already won the match and we were going to win the match. It was just a matter of time. I had that confidence at the time. And yeah, I had a sleep. I slept a bit, I rode a bit, I woke up a few times in the night, but when I went out to bat the next day, I really believed that we would win the match. Brett Lee bowled a bit, and then we had McGrath was so consistent. I mean, I didn't feel he was going to get me out unless I played a bad shot, McGrath, but he would hit those lines every single time. And you had to be patient because you wouldn't score off him very easy. But yeah, we went on to do it. And I think, and that's one of the things that actually gets missing because every time, maybe this is a pet peeve of mine, every time you see the match being played, because I think Shivner and Shandapal got out early the next morning, and then myself and Vespa Drakes batted a while. But when they show the highlights from the match, they mention a lot of the time Vespa Drakes coming in and hit the winning runs, but they forget the amount of time that me and Bessie batted together, as well as how long we myself and Shiv would have batted the day before, and then even the morning, how long I would have batted along with Bessie. I mean, I remember when Bessie came in, one of the things that we told each other, or one thing he said was, Banksy, we're gonna do it in tens. And we came up with a great game plan that, hey, you know what? Is the next 10 runs. The next 10 runs. I think, and we were maybe about 30 runs off when Bassett came in. And it just happened that we stuck it out. We came up with a game plan and we achieved that. And it was such a special moment. It was such a special moment, not just for me, but the entire region. Because I think Caribbean people, we needed something to hold on to. Australians were really giving us a pounding in the series, and although we had some couple individual milestones being achieved, whether it be Sarwan centric, Chandapal centric, Lara had made maybe 1 or 2 centuries during the series as well. But I think we needed a team win. And I think that's what that win in Antigua represented, the team coming together and doing something that was so special that that the whole Caribbean could rally behind it and say, okay, we have something to hold on to. You know what I mean? All is not lost. We held our pride and we won this match as a team. So I was really proud to be able to play a role in that win. I mean, which is still a record to this day. And I'm really proud of what we were able to achieve as a team. And yeah, that was a special moment. I didn't broke the 375 record individually, but as a team, it was great to be part of something that was bigger than myself.
And you played 10 test matches and 5 one-days for West Indies. And of course, you went on to play for Somerset as well in county cricket. Your cricket career went up to about 2011-12. So how do you look back at that journey, and how difficult was it for you to walk away and embark on a career in music? Because you were still a young man at the time, still 29, could have possibly entertained hopes of making it back into the West Indies team, especially considering that T20 cricket had come around and all-rounders such as yourself could have had a spot as well.
Absolutely. As you said before, I mean, looking back, if I wanted to, I could play definitely another 5-6 years and try to push it and even just stick around, maybe trying to get a professional contract in franchise cricket. But as I said, when I look back at my career and what I was able to achieve, I was proud of that. I mean, I always say one of my biggest things that I'm proud of. I mean, I was able to get in my second to last on my last international match. I was a man of the match against Sri Lanka for the West Indies team. So things like that. Scored my first half century in my third test match against Australia, playing against the likes of Murugaratnam. Me and Lara had a huge partnership of maybe over 100 and some runs in St. Lucia. So battling with my hero at the time, I mean, that was something that was really special. Winning in, I mean, taking about 3 for 30 out against Zimbabwe in Bulawayo, my fourth test match as well. I can't remember, maybe 4th or 5th, somewhere around there. But I mean, yeah, just doing stuff like that, taking wickets, man of the match achievements for West Indies is something I look back with great pride. I mean, you don't always get man of the match for your region. And coming from Anguilla, that was something which is very difficult to do just to make the team. So having success at that level is something I'm very proud of. And then going on at the age of 25, 26 years old to play professional cricket for Somerset. I mean, that was a decision which I took because I wanted just to develop my game. I mean, I could have stayed in the Caribbean and try to just to play for West Indies. I had already gotten selected for West Indies A teams if I wasn't the main West Indies team, so I'd done that, that kind of stuff. But I said, playing cricket in England, you can develop your game, and playing cricket every day, and especially in those conditions. So I wanted to go over to England, so I did and played 2 to 3 full seasons with Somerset. Played 2020, played a couple championship games as well as I played in the World 2020 Championship over in India, the first ever, where I think we made it through to the semifinals. So I had a great time in Somerset. Then I came back in the Caribbean and actually did really well in the regional competition, because actually when I stopped playing for Somerset in my first season back in the region, I actually myself and Darren Salmon were voted the best all-rounders. And then after that happened, and then I didn't get selected for even a West Indies A team, I kind of got disappointed in the sense that because I was the captain of the Leewarders team at the time, and I thought that if I came back in the Caribbean and I did well, that I would be around setup, even if I don't go directly in the team. So that kind of discouraged me for a bit in terms of in terms of my future in the game. And after 2010, and I had a couple of issues with the Leeward Islands board. After 2 matches, I was a captain, and I had an issue with the president, the president of the board at the time. Just the politics of that can go, and they dropped me from the Leeward Islands team as a captain at a time where I should be trying to push to be playing for West Indies team. So that's literally when I retired from cricket. I was actually the captain of the Leeward Islands team when I retired from international cricket and professional cricket. So that part was disappointing. But I had at that time I was kind of fed up with one, not being able to break into the West Indies team after having such a good competition after coming back from playing professional cricket over in England, and then being disciplined or being dropped from the Leeward Islands team, which is a professional team, for not agreeing with a decision of the president of the board. So that was something which I was very disappointed with. And at that time, I was like, if I committed so much of my time to the game of cricket, work hard so much at my game, and somebody can just drop you from the team, not really based on your performance, but based upon an issue that you have um, with administration, I said, okay, my time in cricket is probably coming to a close. And for me, I walked away from the game, 29 years old, young. When I look at some of my counterparts who still pushing at 35, I say, wow. But I'm glad that I did it at that time because I was able to get a jump start on my musical career. I would always travel with my guitar. On my last tour for Leeward Islands, I would take the guitar on tour, and I started playing guitar. I remember our last a game in Guyana, where the whole 2 weeks of cricket I think was rained out. And I was in my room. I mean, if we're not at the ground, I would be practicing in my room 18 hours. I just stayed in my room, played guitar. And when I got back home, and we had the issue in Antigua with the board, I just said, yeah, probably it's time for me to move on to doing something else. And actually that became the title track of my first album, the first song that I released when I retired from professional and international cricket. A song that's called Move On, inspired by my transition I made from my time in cricket. But I had a great time. I had a great time. 12 years of professional cricket, and learned so much. Had some great friends, a lot of people which were really kind to me along the way. Made some great friends all over the world and in the game. And I can walk away from the game knowing that I gave it my best and that I didn't leave anything on the table. And with the respect of my cricketing peers, that's what's most important. So the likes of whether it be Bravo, Gail, um, Lara, Ganga, Sauer, and all these guys, all the guys who I played with, whether for West Indies or for Leewards, I still have the respect. I can call upon them anytime, and that's a great thing because I think when we finish playing cricket, what sticks with us mostly is the memories that we have and the friendships that we've developed over the years. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm here now, 11, 12 years after retiring, doing my thing in music and having a great time doing so. So I'm happy.
And you mentioned moving away, and you were also a physical education teacher for some time, and then you took on
Yes.
to music full time. Of course, Move On was your first single, and you had also released an album. Later, of course, there was No Point to Prove, where I think there is a bit of Chris Gale's Bar also that's featured. There's
Yes.
Sabina Park, Bewell Hines also features in that song. So there's a bit of
Yes.
cricketing tinge as well. But one of the things that strikes about your music is that a lot the lyrics are inspired by a lot of outside events or your own philosophy. Can you tell us
Yes.
about that? I also heard one of the songs that you sang recently, which was dedicated to Africa. So
Yes.
what tell us a little bit about the lyrics and what is the thought behind your music and of course the journey that you've been on over the last 12 years.
Well, first with the journey, it's been a journey because although growing up with my dad who was around music, a lot of times when you hear a cricketer say that they're gonna do music, sometimes people don't take it seriously. You know what I mean? They just think, okay, cool, this is another thing that they're gonna do. But my introduction to cricket and my music, sorry, and my path to music is different from a lot of the other cricketers or people who venture from sports to music. One because of my dad's background and just the musicality of it. I play an instrument, and my whole mission and my whole intention behind what I'm doing is to kind of bring out my ideologies of how I see the world as well as the stories which I've experienced to try to inspire people. And I think that's really present in my music. I think when you listen to the likes of Move On, it's kind of a biography of my life of up to that point and how I see myself going forward. No Point to Prove talks about what happens, and it's in my attitude of how I see things. Like, okay, I've done it in cricket, no point to prove. I'm moving on, and this is what it is. I think that's the kind of attitude, and I think although it's my story, I think a lot of people is able to relate to that. 'Cause a lot of times it's a story of being knocked down and you're getting back up and you're pushing forward with a positive mentality and still believing yourself, not leaving your circumstance get let you stick, make you stuck where you are. I think that's my story, and that's what I try to get over in my music, as well as from the conscious perspective. But being a black man, from being from the Caribbean, being somebody who's conscious of the history of the Caribbean, the history of the world, I try to bring that over into the music because Anguilla being a British overseas territory, we're still stuck in the whole colonial frame of mind. So we have different, what should I say, a better inflections of that come out in our day to day reality. And when I write my music, I try to educate as well as just let people know where I'm coming from being a person from this part of the world um, who's been subjected to colonialism and who wants our people to really rise up above what we have experienced mentally, and so that we're able to move forward positively and effect a positive change in our communities. Because I think you mentioned about my PE. I mean, I taught physical education even during my time when I was playing cricket. So when I would come back home, I would go to the primary schools and teach physical education to all the six primary schools. And I did that even 3 years after I retired from cricket. So I did that for almost 12, 13 years, teaching PE. Had a time, I go to the primary schools continuously, still have talks with the kids. Um, and just try to inspire people. So I try to inspire people and the kids and the community and just the awakening of the people of my country through song, through my actions. And I think that's the best way you can do it. I mean, people listen to music, they bop along their heads. And sometimes when you're talking to them, they don't listen. But when you put it in a song, it kind of sticks in their subliminal and in their consciousness. And I think that's what I try to do with my music, right? Positive music. It's not just for capitalist consumption, if I'm allowed to say that. But basically, I want people to listen. I want them to consume it. But ultimately, it's about how we can change our minds, or even enlighten our minds, I should say, to the realities of our existence. And I think that's what music is. A lot of ways, whether we know it or we don't know it, music affects our minds. And for me, I prefer to tap into the wholesome, and not to sound too self-righteous, but the wholesome side of it. I prefer to show the sides of it that can help us develop, not just shake our booty, but really maybe shake our minds and what should I say, just have a vibrate at a higher level. You know what I mean? Tap into our chakras. You know, so you would get that. Yeah, so just vibrate at a higher level. And I think that's what music, what I believe is about. I believe if I put out a good word, I believe that good karma will come back to me.
Absolutely. And there have been quite a few singles that you've released and you continue to sing across concerts and all. I just have one final question. You've played in front of a full house, right? You know, hit the winning runs a few times, of course, been a part of that record chase. And now you're facing an audience. How different is it? One, performing with the bat or ball in front of thousands, and two, performing with your guitar and your voice in front of thousands as well.
Both of them are exciting. I mean, when you hit a four, you take a wicket, you feel like a gladiator winning a championship or something. I mean, it's a great feeling. But on stage, it's a very amazing feeling as well. You feel powerful. I mean, and that's the beauty about music. That's why I think music you can do it for a lot longer, and I think you can have an impact. And with my music, I mean, what I'm playing in front of 2,000, 10,000, 20,000, or 20, or 10 people, just the impact that you can have on people's lives and music from what you sing the song is so powerful. And I feel that every day when I'm playing here in Anguilla or when I'm playing outside of Anguilla. When people come to me and tell me I love your music took me through this period of my life. The songs make me feel like I'm here in Angola, and it gives me a positive vibe when it's cold where I'm at, where my girlfriend left me when I lost my job. think I think that's the power in music. And then as well, sometimes when you're playing it, I play the electric guitar and I play lead guitar too. And then in just the admiration that people that's on people's face when they see you perform. And then when you look at you in amazement, that's what you practice for. You practice to be able to bowl that ball. I can bowl the batsman through the gate. I get the outside edge. I hit the four. I hit a six. When you can play that guitar solo so perfectly with so much precision that people are awed by what you can do. It's a great self ego boost and it's a great self confidence driver. And I enjoy that. I mean, I think it's something which I've always enjoyed performing. Always been on this, enjoyed being on the stage, whether it be on the cricket stage or on the music stage. And I soak up that moment. I love to perform. When I was younger, even when I did music, sometimes I would do it, but you'd be a little bit shy. But now I realize, I mean, I've been a seasoned professional. You realize that the people who are watching you, they are watching you more in amazement. So you just gotta practice your skills. And when you can execute what you're doing, it's such a beautiful thing. So there's no reason to be frightened or nervous. Especially the only thing you gotta do is go out there and execute what you've been practicing all the time. So it's both of them are a blessing. I feel blessed to be able to do two things in my life that I've been very passionate and passionate and proud of. One, to play for the West Indies and have success at that level, as well as two, to continue to take my music to another level. I actually have a new album that's going to be coming out in the spring of 2023. Maybe we can do an interview at that time when it comes out. But I've got probably some new singles that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So look out for that. And I'm really excited. I've got some amazing international collaborations that will be on my upcoming album, and a few names that you'll probably be familiar with from the cricketing world. I won't just tell you who is yet. But yeah, I'm just really excited to continue to take my music to new heights. And with this new album, I'm absolutely certain that it'll be another step forward in my musical career and musical journey. So I'm really excited to just keep playing on stages, and um, bigger events. So I'm really happy that you had me. It's been such a pleasure, and it's always good to reflect on my days in cricket. But it's also great to look forward to my future in music, which I'm really excited about as well.
And you said that people look at you with amazement, and it's really true because you've done two things that most people are passionate about, but you have done that successfully. And it's been
Thank
quite
you.
a journey from a young man with a very clean look to the rock star look that you have now with the long hair and that presence about yourself.
Thank
It
you.
really sums up the Omari Banks journey. And I think the music that you said that likes people connect with it, I would say I mentioned the song No Point to Prove because I could connect with that song and I still
Absolutely.
listen to that single. And of course, because it's got a bit of the cricketing element as well. But for everything that lies ahead, we wish you the very best. We call on our viewers and our listeners to, of course, follow you on social media. You've got a wonderful
Yes.
YouTube channel where you put out all your videos. You're there on Instagram as well. So we call out to them to follow you, follow your journey, and listen to those lyrics that you, of course, want to reach out to the wider audience. Once again, thank you so much for joining us.
But I want to say a special thank you to you, my brother, and thank you to all your friends over there in India. Actually, 2017, I think it was 2017, 18. I think 17. I traveled over to India to release my my music video, Reggae Summertime. I did a concert, a sold out concert in Pune. Did a couple of stuff in Mumbai, and it was a great time during the time of the IPL. So I just want to say thanks to all the Indian fans who've been supporting my music. I want to encourage them to continue doing that. Make sure they follow me on my social media. My Instagram is Omari Banks Music, OMARIBANKS Music MUSIC. Make sure they follow me on Facebook as well, Omari Banks on Facebook. And they can follow me on my YouTube page, just Omari Banks. So I want to say thank you very much, Niche Sports, for having me. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And yeah, just stay tuned. Reach out anytime. I'll be happy to have a conversation again as well when the album drops. Just enough love. Appreciate you guys so much. Love and respect all the time.
I don't think I have anything more to add. You've just summed it up perfectly in that last answer and also your entire journey. And this is what the show is all about.
Thank you.